I'm going fishing. And I'm gonna
Hi, I'm Matt Frick. This is John Samuel. This is the Matt and John Show.
What's happening, everyone?
How's it going? How are you, buddy?
Doing great. Really ecstatic to be here.
How'd you like that fade out? That was nice.
I did like that fade out
Thanks.
a lot. And I like the equipment in the studio.
Thanks, John. This is the Zoom Live Track L8. It's a podcasting mixing console. And it's incredible. I can, it's set up for live podcasting, which is something I definitely don't want to get into at all, right? Because I just don't have time, John.
Is this investment, this podcast setup here investment, is that pretty costly? What are we talking?
It's really not that bad. This unit, I think, was, what, 500?
Okay.
600, something like that.
So it's something that could easily cause a divorce in my house right now?
So I definitely probably won't be having my wife listen to this podcast for...
Excellent.
If we start talking about gear. Maybe I'll edit it out later. I think I'm pretty low on my voice there. I kind of like it. That's how my dad was when he was in radio.
Let's talk about that. What, your dad, when was this?
So here's how it is. I was raised in a musical family. And my dad did radio. My grandma, gospel piano. And my brother plays trombone, guitar. My dad is also a writer. So all that kind of combined, I was really around a lot of that stuff when I was growing up. And my dad, his basement was filled with all kinds of recording equipment, reel-to-reels and mini Moogs sitting around, which is really cool. But yeah, he would do his radio thing. I'd watch him do it. He used to drum on the dashboard on the car when he was driving. He'd be like, on the dashboard on the way to school. And then I'd be like, well, I kind of wanted to do that, Next thing you know, I'm like trying to drum. He's like secretly training me to drum.
At what age did you really dive into it? When was that first instrument issued to you, and when did you really just go full speed?
Well, I've identified one moment that was life-changing. There was a girl in my block. Her name was Jody. I think she was like slightly crazy because her family was crazy. They like moved down to Florida and locked their dog in the garage, and we had to like bust the garage open and save the dog's life.
The nice thing about Florida is we really do welcome all kinds of crazy people.
We don't discriminate.
Not at all. Not at all.
I bring her up because she basically said, hey, I'm learning piano. And then she said she would just tap her thumb, index, middle, ring, pinky, and she would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that order, and then go back 4, 3, 2, 1. And she said, that's what you need to do if you want to practice and be a piano player. And I'm thinking, on my spare time now, I'm going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 over and over. And then it sort of kind of hit me because my grandma, Renee Frick, was incredible. She used to call in Kentucky. She was a colonel. She was, and she used to call the radio station and set her phone down on the top of the piano and play her Renee Frick style piano, gospel, all over the place. So cool. And then when we'd go visit her, she was playing Grand Old Flag. She's playing all the classic stuff, some really old time stuff that I'd never heard, a lot of church stuff. And then, I was dancing around like with a cane, like I was on Broadway, and then, eating, of course, her deviled eggs that hopefully she's making, which was incredible. That's a different podcast we're going to go into later.
Nice. So we could do a whole separate podcast on deviled eggs.
Yes,
yeah.
The kind of spices you use in the top and whether or not you use jalapenos, which she didn't, by the way. She was old school. Some people do. I don't know if you knew that, John. But I'm going to try to stay focused because that's completely different.
So talk to me about the sound of music. I don't hear too many podcasts or too many interviews where people really dig into the sound. People talk about the allure of having a guitar in your hand or playing drums or wanting to be accepted. But what did the sound do to you? How did the sound resonate inside?
So here's what happened, at least for me. I started off playing drums, and that was in 5th grade, I think. So, funny story, I have to go back. It all goes back to gambling. My stepdad Jerry Dunn, was running across the country in 104 days. He ran 50 miles a day except for Sundays. This is when I was, I don't know, 3rd, 4th grade? 4th grade.
Wait a second,
probably.
he ran 50 miles a day?
You heard me. He called it Shore to Shore in 104.
Shore to Shore in 104.
Yeah, this is
Have you
before
wrote a song
Forrest
about
Gump.
that?
I'm considering not working on that right now.
Okay.
I'm definitely considering not doing that. Wait, hang on.
Nice.
That was a joke.
Nice.
So check this out.
What's the mindset? First of all, how does someone have the time to run 50 miles a day?
It's my understanding when someone's a recovering alcoholic, they often will substitute it with something that's just as intense, whether that be exercise or snowboarding or just, music or whatnot.
Trading one addiction for another.
And that's what happened. So I kind of learned that he had quit drinking. He said, I'm going to run, and that's what I'm going to do. I think he was the last of his breed as far as the Dunns in his family. He was the last line, so kind of just wanted to go out with a bang. So he's been doing, I haven't really kept in touch with him, but so the reason I'm bringing this up is when I was younger, I went with him on part of his run, and we showed up in a little town, I think in Colorado, called Black Hawk, and I had saved a little bit of money, and there was casinos, and I'm like a little kid, and come to find that kids could go in the casino and literally just be like, point right at the machine for their dad to play for them, but be like, I'm not touching you, like, no touching, but I'd be like, this one right here, pointing right at it, like, to the cameras and waving hi. And so
just put the money in and turn.
Yeah. Funny thing is, of course, I go in there, I lose, I don't know, 10, 15, how much do you have at that time? You're like 10, 15 bucks, maybe 30 if you're rich.
Yeah.
And,
especially when you're a kid.
And so he's like, we're leaving out the car, and of course I want to go back in, and I go, I have another few dollars. Can I please go back in? And he's like, no. And I said, please? He's like, all right, I'm going to teach you a lesson. We're going to go back in. You're going to lose your money. We're going to come out. We're going to leave. So we walk in. He puts $1 into a machine and wins $400 off the bat, and then we walk. Which became, by the way, my strategy for gambling, which is one of our gambling podcasts that's coming up in a few weeks here we're going to be talking about. So I leave, $400, long story short, they use that money to buy my first drum set before all the other kids from a garage sale, a 1960 something Ludwig Gold Sparkle, which, by the way, later on, my drum teacher actually did a bad trade and stole it from me, basically. He said, I'm going to give you a shitty drum set and you can have this one. Thanks, Dan Paul from Paul Mueller Lessons in Indianapolis. So that was nice of him. So he got a really nice drum set and gave me a Canon and that had more up-to-date hardware and was more for the type of music that I was playing, which was soon to be like Pantera and, rock and roll, like double bass metal, So I started with drums, John, and then what happened to me was when I hit, 15 years old, I was diagnosed with a muscle disease called Myasthenia Gravis, and it was a really, really strong thing that happened to me. My eyes shut almost completely. I was seeing double. I could barely walk upstairs. So for those of you, which everybody in the world, no one knows of Myasthenia Gravis because it's what's called an orphan disease. It's very, very rare, 1 out of 10,000 people, and guess what? I was the gambler who got to walk with that, but that's okay. Basically, from then on, I wondered if I was going to be able to play drums again. From then, I said, I'm going to play guitar.
So from what I understand is that you didn't have the energy to play drums, correct? With the disease?
Well, let me describe what it's like. Here's what my disease, when it's full motion, feels like. let's say you're wearing one of those x-ray vests, you know, back in the day when you used to get your x-ray for whatever dentist, they make you wear this huge heavy vest. Imagine wearing that, and then say hold your arm up until it gets so tired that you're just like, man, I really kind of want to put my arm down. So if you could imagine that sluggish feeling, that's what it was like, mixed with double vision and then not being able to walk upstairs. It's in the category of muscular dystrophy. So technically what it is, and not to get to bore everybody about it, but your brain sends a nerve impulse to motor receptors that will take that impulse and will basically that impulse is getting lost for me sometimes to some of the receptors. So gravis, meaning gravity, is very heavy. I feel heavy. So the whole thing about my story, which I'd love to tell you, is about gravity and how it's led me to healing. It's been an amazing journey. So basically, I'm thinking I can't play drums anymore. By the way, I'm not trying to brag here, but at my age, I was getting really good at drums. I was soloing, playing Buddy Rich drum solos.
Emotionally, how did you handle that at age 15? Age 15's, it's like a coming of age. That's the time in our lives where anything's possible and you're trying to find yourself and figure out what you're going to do after high school, and there's so many new adventures you're taking on. And
yeah, it was like that. So I was in Indianapolis going to North Central High School my freshman year, and I remember coming home and my eye was shut and my mom calling my dad over and just saying, "Look at him." And it's okay, like, if you're listening, like, it's all right. I would have done the same thing. But it freaked me out because they thought I had Lou Gehrig's disease. They were hoping it was some kind of a weird virus. Do you remember when OJ was the first time he was on trial? Do you remember that moment they said, innocent? Remember that second? I was getting an MRI. They were just about to call my name, getting an MRI to see if I had Lou Gehrig's. And they said, innocent. And they go, Matt, just like that. And then called me in. I did a full body MRI. And they found out that they did all these tests on me, and they were poking me with all this stuff, found out that I had this really rare muscle disease called Myasthenia Gravis, which, by the way, is the best thing that I could have in the muscular dystrophy family. It's not progressive, flares up. It's worse when you get it from the beginning. So when I first got it, it was the strongest I've ever had, and I will hopefully ever have in my life. But yeah, so to answer your question, going to high school, kids are mean. I forgot to tell you guys that my eyelash turned white before this all happened in 7th grade, which is really weird. Check out whiteeyelash.com and you can find out more. I'm just kidding. I won't press the drum. Well, I have to.
Nice.
Sorry.
How did you handle that as a kid?
It was rough.
Kids are brutal.
Kids were brutal. They're, white eyelash. Everybody's saying that that I bleach my eyebrow, and it's like, guys, it's eyelash, not eyebrow. And then I got so frustrated, I just said, yeah, I did bleach it. And then I started spreading out a rumor that I dropped acid on it, just because I think that's what they were already saying. So I went with it.
That is the best part of is in life, when you reach a demographic that you cannot get through and you can't explain, and they're just not hearing it, they're not listening it, they don't understand it. The best is just to turn around and joke about it and just let it go, because you'll never convince someone.
Well, so here's the thing. My friends were calling me freak at the time. I remember until I met my hippie friends, started listening to the Dead and smoking weed. Next thing you know, I've got a nice network of friends that like to have fun, joke around. We even started to, go hang out at the Dead parking lots, and I still went through that. So what you should know is that soon I was on prednisone. Prednisone, as much as people want to talk bad about it, it saved me. And thank you, prednisone, and thank you, Western science. I'm open to everything, but to be honest with you, this is the only thing at the time that was going to help me. So I gained 50 pounds.
Well, not the only thing. I mean, you really...
It's a mixture.
Music music had to help you through this period.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't even tell you. So what was happening musically was incredible. I met my buddy Dave Sullivan, Andy Salgi. We started doing some really clever stuff with drum set, guitar, and bass. These epic compositions that were just almost like Yes, like classic rock mixed with. It was incredible. I mean, these guys played in a band called 8 Mile Road. And they were like way beyond their time, and maybe freshmen and high school, something like this. So I met these guys, started healing, going to band practice, and then noticed that I was able to play drums being on medicine again, which was great. But the thing with prednisone is they have to lower it down over time, so you can't just stay happy on that high amount. It's not something that's long-term. It's a short-term medicine. So as I was lowering it, and then starting to lose some of my puffiness, it's getting a lot better at music, learning how to write compositions, hanging out with my buddies, got my first 4-track, and it was really helping me to kind of get through it was like therapy, They tried to take me to a therapist, my parents did, and I don't blame them, but I didn't like it. It's not my thing. For me, therapy has always been music, especially once I realized that melody, in fact, and the way that you can express yourself with melody is much, I think, more soulful than, say, drums.
Can you take me on a trip here?
So here's what I'm talking about. Let's say there's more colors in melody than there is on. That kind of stuff makes you. It's a different medicine. And so what I'm learning is that, holy cow, not only are all these different medicines and flavors related, but they all cure different things, just like listening to different songs would. If I want to do something that's like inspiring, I play an F major 7. And that would resolve to my very favorite chord, which is a C major 7. So once I figured out the power of music, I was able to kind of overcome. Once my disease started flaring up, it came back strong. It comes back strong all the time. I'm like, oh, great. This is great.
How often does it come back?
Well, 2 to 3 years ago, it was coming back once a year for a whole month where I'm seeing double. I'm feeling like a slug. Gosh, could you imagine having a job? Which is another story. I ended up selling mattresses for 10 years because I figured, hey, I'll just go work at a mattress store. If I'm not feeling good, I'll lay down in a freaking bed.
Were you constantly sleeping around in those periods?
Yeah, I mean, I was sleeping on the job, sleeping around. It was like, hey,
so many,
you get, that's for you, buddy.
There's so many jokes. There's so many ways you can go there.
Frick, yeah. Hey, I'd like to take a quick break here and give a little shout out to some people. You're listening to the Matt and John Show. We'd like to thank CJS Live Music Entertainment and everybody else that's done good in the world.
And all the amazing musicians in the Bay Area.
Okay, we're back.
I use music for different things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm in the mindset of writing, sitting down, writing, journaling, or I'm in the mindset of being in the moment with my family, and we're all sitting around at the dinner table and we're listening to an album. Or if I had a rough day and I come home and there's certain tunes I throw in that help me ponder the day's events and really reflect on everything. And then there's those angry times where I'm just frustrated and I'm not sure, and there's the progressive rock music, and there's all kinds of music for different feelings. When you're 15 and you've been hit hard with this disease, this change of life, you're entering a whole different place mentally. Your folks don't know much about it. There's not a smartphone or a tablet or a MacBook where you can just get on and Google and pull up YouTube. You got to go to real doctors and you got to do trial and error on certain medicine. What were the angry days like? What did you gravitate towards?
Drums. So my buddy Brian Wright and I used to go sit outside playing drum circles. We would lug all of our drum stuff in the middle of an alley just because it sounded good. Sit out front of bars, play, and drums, because of the driving, determination of rhythm. Rhythm is a whole half side of music, completely linked but different to melody, and they both heal in different ways. Like if I'm wanting to work out, I want or I want something upbeat. And so drums, I think Mickey Hart, from the Grateful Dead, and his world music thing. I ended up going to college and studying world music because I was so really big into the healing and just the sounds and tabla and congas and these and djembes and things that really were feeling spiritual when you played. But what really kind of changed my life, to be honest with you, because at this point, music polygamy became apparent. There's a lot of pressure. So, for example, people used to say about my dad, he's similar to me in the fact that we're really good at everything musically and writing, whereas maybe we're not A+ at everything, but we're like A- at everything, or B+ is our goal, and a lot of people would say, well, you should just focus on that one, be like that epic, player at that one instrument instead of cutting yourself thin on all the instruments. And I said, hell with it. Let's play everything. I started playing marimba, xylophone, congas, talking drums, all kinds of hand percussion, drum set, guitar. I picked up a banjo all of a sudden, and I was wearing overalls with an afro all of a sudden, taking banjo lessons.
I have not seen that picture yet, by the way.
Oh, I don't know if you should.
Okay.
You might reflect. You might judge.
We don't need to add that in the podcast notes. Did the learning of all these new instruments, constantly keeping it fresh by practicing and learning these instruments, did that help you take your mind off things?
So when you pick up a guitar, instantly, whatever problems you have, they're gone for that short period of time. So if I could only share one little thing, from this, it would be, especially if you're learning guitar or you're thinking about doing it, or any instrument that you're looking in, just know that when you pick it up, it's like Harry Potter's wand, when the wand decides that it's for Harry, and everything goes crazy, and we won't get into the Potter part of things, but I'll just say this: each thing that I was playing was a different magic. All of a sudden, and here's why I also was picking up other things, because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to play drums anymore, because my arms get so heavy when you're holding them up. What was happening is, playing drums, I would have to lower the cymbals. Next thing you know, I'm thinking, I'm just gonna try playing guitar. Then I kind of noticed that as I was holding my guitar up, my left arm was getting heavy. Let's say I'm strumming a guitar and I'm standing up. Now my left arm is, raised up pretty high when I'm playing. Now, for everybody else, no big deal, but for me, gravity, Myasthenia Gravis, is taking effect. Next thing you know, I'm getting a little bit heavy, so basically I'm thinking maybe I'll, if I go up high and play melodies and start learning how to shred, it's actually just barely easier for me to play because the gravity is less there. So actually is influencing my decisions melodically based on this crazy disease. So next thing you know, I'm, just because it's heavy on my arm, I'm starting to learn how to shred. Up high.
And that's not heavy on your arm right there?
Yeah, because my arm is not reached up all the way like I'm doing a chord down here.
Okay.
It's less gravity for me to be here. So then all of a sudden, lead guitar and melody was an explosion for me. Which, by the way, once you learn the pentatonic scale, it changed my life. Because it's more expressive. You know? And then you start learning the colors and they just have different vibes, you know?
There's something about learning that is just magical and beautiful. For example, years ago, I heard someone talking, and I can't remember where I was. I think it was a business meeting or something. And the guy said, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get really frustrated with your business or with life or just having a rough day in general. He goes, when those days hit you, take a step back and try to learn something. And it was that quote, that saying, that thought process that I literally had to take a step back and think about what he said. So no matter what you're faced with on a daily basis, the troubles, the bullshit, you know, your boss, work, your significant other, whatever's coming down on you, if you can literally step out of that anger for a minute and try to learn something, it will completely change your life. And I think your lesson, and I think your story about playing music and about getting over, or not getting over, but overcoming and learning to work hand by hand, side by side with a disease that has probably crippled way too many people because of their mindset, not from the actual physical disease, but the mindset, because the mind is huge. If you can overcome, you can literally overcome anything, but you got to be willing to learn. You got to be willing to step outside of your head, and you got to be able to see better days. And I think, you know, you're extremely uplifting when I sit here and inside the studio and look at all these instruments and I hear your story. And this is not the first time I've heard your story. I've been fortunate enough to hear your story about your old grandma's poetry and the folklore. And for the people listening right now, your mindset is huge. It can take you any which way you want to go. You can choose to go on any type of journey you want to go. Matt chose music, and it's inspiring. It's inspiring to hear you play, and it's inspiring to see you say, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to let anything take control over my mindset.
Well said. I'm going to take a little break here. Give a little shout out to some of our sponsors. You're listening to the Matt and John Show. I'm Matt Frick, and this is John Samuel.
Thanks, Matt.
I'd like to thank you for coming in, John. You're one of my favorite people in town. In fact, when I first arrived here, I started sitting in with one of my favorite musicians in town, Josh Higgins.
Oh, man, that guy's amazing.
Josh and Jenny, God bless them both. They're just amazing people.
Great parents. Awesome parents.
And I'll just say this. I showed up here in Florida to try a retail job out again and run a little store called the Sleep Oasis. And I kind of was just like, this isn't really for me. I started going to the Love's Artifacts bar. You remember that bar?
Oh, yeah.
South Tampa?
I used to work right down the street at the
serious?
Green Iguana.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That little spot was a little magical spot, the Green Iguana as well. And so the Blues Night, especially, by the way, it's a different podcast. But I just want to say this. I saw Josh play, and it was very, very inspiring, him and his wife, Jenny. And I kind of, I was like, hey, like my buddy Dave Holloway was like, you should get up there and, play with them. And I'm like, no. But I'm thinking, wait, I've been playing music like for a long time. Maybe I should. So I got up there and I think we did Stormy Monday. And it just sounded so good with Josh. And he was like, hey man, you should just play music. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? I do mattresses. But I'm like, okay, well, him and then also Andrew Ricker, my other good buddy in town playing locally, they just said, you know what, there's people around here playing just okay. They're just average. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Let me stop here and explain what I'm about to talk about. He said, you can just be okay here in Florida and play live. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm okay.
I've booked a lot of okay musicians over the years. So here's my take on this. Okay, is you really did strike a chord, no pun intended, but because...
Oh, wait, hang on. That's for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, anytime.
Okay, musicians. There's a lot of okay musicians in this town. And what's crazy about that is there's just a number of them. But then if you look at the flip side of things, there's a crazy amount of like phenomenal musicians in this town. So I think the phenomenal musicians are a lot more than the okay musicians. But I think in the cover world scene, it's okay to be okay in this area. Like, people are fine with you being okay. But if you step outside the cover scene, you won't find okay. It's insane, the original bands that are around here.
I agree. And here's the thing. When you see someone that's okay, just think they could be blending in with the restaurant vibe. And by the way, there's so many different ways to play at a venue. It's not even like we'll get into that at some point, hopefully. But I'll just say this: that person could have been at the very beginning of their career, as okay. Next thing, a year passes by, you see the same person, and they're incredible.
Oh yeah, that has happened lots.
That happened to me. I'm starting to feel like that. I'm not incredible yet, but I'm definitely have advanced big time.
I've had the pleasure. I've been in the business for a while now, and I've had the pleasure of really seeing musicians mature and morph into this beautiful artistic creation. I've seen lots of them. I mean, I could name drop all day long, but this town's really good like that. And I think if you utilize the cover scene the right way and you go in with the mentality and the attitude that you're always going to stay fresh, you're always going to learn, I think like there's so much help in this town too. Like, if you got questions and you need to hook up with better musicians, it's like playing basketball. You can go play a bunch of 8th graders and you're going to play average. And then when you play some college folks, you're going to play the best basketball you've ever played. The higher the competition, the better it makes you. So I think that's what you got to strive for. You got to strive for not being okay. We were in downtown Dunedin, I don't know, last Friday, whenever it was. And I was walking down the main drag, and we're taking the kids trick or treat, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And I stopped in front of Sterling Wines, and I'm listening to a musician. I'm like, cool, cover musician. I'd never seen the musician before. And then I literally walked one door down to the next bar, which was Flanagan's, and either Flanagan's or Dunedin Smokehouse. The next musician playing outside. And literally side by side, 2 bars. And both musicians were playing the same song.
Come on, what were they doing? Free Falling?
No.
Brown Eye.
No, they were doing a Van Morrison song at the exact same time. And I'm like,
stereo.
I'm like, what are the fucking odds?
That's so funny,
literally,
John.
what are the odds? But strive to not be okay. There's so much room for growth. And if you don't know how to not be okay, reach out to someone like Matt or I. I like talking about stuff like this. I like challenging myself. You know that.
Oh, I definitely do. Which brings me to the reason why we're talking here is because of my friend Corey Mon. When I moved here,
I miss you, Corey.
Yeah, I miss you, buddy, so much. I wish you were here. Brad Smith, a very kind of well-known legend drummer around the city, a very awesome drummer, said, hey, he saw me and Josh playing Stormy Monday in Ybor, and he was like, hey, Corey, call up that Matt guy, see if he can play. So then I sat in with Corey, Brad, and then Cesar Ponce.
Nice.
And we played at the Brown Boxer, and then me and Corey kind of had a bromance. We're like, whoa, that was really good. I was like, I think the herb is so good around here. I think I was just shredding epically, and it probably wasn't even me. It was other things there. Which brings me to, I'm gonna take a break here and then talk about this. I'll be right back. You're listening to Matt and John all day long. Two bros before hoes. What if I said that? Should I say that? I shouldn't say that.
Don't. I mean, I would keep it. You got to just keep it. I mean, you were raised on Snoop Doggy Dogg.
That's true.
Okay.
Just gotta let him know. We were talking about Corey Mon. We started up a duo called Frickin' Mon, which there is still an Instagram account, Frickin' Mon, guys.
Frickin' Mon. And Corey, when I first saw Corey play, my first impression was he's not the normal cover musician. I could instantly tell he was from West Coast. He had the West Coast flair with him. He had the energy, like his energy was completely off the chain. And both of you guys were very instrumental in when I used to do that storytelling night for the assisted living facility. You both showed up and played in front of the elderly and just blew them away, and that goes back to your music therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Love music therapy.
Oh yeah. Now, just briefly about Corey. I mean, we were starting to play some fun gigs. We were doing his originals were incredible, and I think for the records, the way to do an original song is put them right in between two hits. Be like, the thrill is gone. The thrill has gone away. The thrill is gone, and then just be like, hey everybody, this is a song my friend wrote back in Indiana. Matt Marshall, by the way, one of my best friends, wrote this song called Home, and it makes me miss Indiana. It's like, home is where you wanna be, alone, and else you turn to me. And then just go straight into, because if you're in Florida, if you don't know what to play, just do Petty, you're fine. But if you're just like, what do you guys want to do? Like, just pick something quick. Just do Petty.
Home.
but
Home. I like Home a lot. I can see that being their state song. You know what I also think about when you're out playing cover music? This is an interesting take. We had a GM this GM was in Charlotte, and he was just one of those guys we built a beautiful relationship with. And when you book music, there's very few GMs, talent scouts, event coordinators, city council board members, bar owners, whoever you're booking a gig with. There's very few that you instantly create a connection with, and then you go, hey, can we bounce some ideas off? And this guy in Charlotte, we were bouncing ideas off of, and he came up with the concept at his venue that he was going to quit playing Pandora over the mic, over the loudspeaker, over the PA. So during the week, when there was no live music shows set up, because they were only doing music on like Friday and Saturday night, typical weekend stuff. During the week, he would ask every single band that we sent him, hey, do you got an original CD? Yeah, I sure do. Can I have one? Yep. They go, what are you going to? I want to put it on our PA. So he created this ginormous set list on iTunes of nothing but touring musicians that were coming through that location, and he took the originals and played them all week long. So when the band showed up on a Friday or Saturday night and they were kicking a couple of their original tunes, the crowd had already heard that song. So it wasn't something new. Like he was introducing these songs in a beautiful way where they would sit back and go, oh man, I've heard Home before. This is cool. I get to see it live now. And they were starting to really appreciate the original music. Jared Simpson and I had a project a while ago, and we never completely fulfilled it. And if Jared, if you're listening, I would love to finish this. But we were taking everyone's original music in Tampa Bay area, and we were collecting CDs from them. And then we were starting a local section at the library where you could go to the library and check this music out. Because how do you get people intrigued? How do you get people interested? You just can't force it upon them on a Friday night at 7:30 when they're completely in the wrong mindset. They're not in the mindset at Friday at 7:30, but on Wednesday at 4:30 when they're taking a sip of their first IPA and they're sitting back and there's no stress on them and they're sitting at the bar and Matt Frick's original tune comes playing and they can really absorb it and soak it in and take this song and run with it. So that way on the weekends when they do hear it, they can associate it. It's all about time framing.
So in between my sets, oh, by the way, I'm a full-time musician now. It's been
nice.
great.
Congratulations. Is there a clap app on this?
Not so much. How about a horn? Is that okay? I'll just edit in the claps later.
You could use that. That's appropriate. That's appropriate for.
You're like, oh, yeah, we'll call you.
Central Florida music scene. That's very appropriate.
This Zoom Live 8 podcasting unit is incredible. I've been recording all my shows. It's got a few sample buttons that I can put entire set worth of music on. I put original music, I put projects I'm working on there, and I do that. I play it in between my set breaks at the right spots. Now, a beach gig, they kind of want to hear their beach music.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's all about finding the right time to introduce the music to them. When we think about music, and we think about getting out and playing gigs, or venue owners, when we think about hosting music, we don't put any marketing into it. We don't put any thought into it. We schedule a musician for Friday night from 6 to 9, maybe a trio from 9 to 1, and we play music. We don't sit around and we don't rap about how we can make things better.
Right.
We're afraid to communicate. Sit down, talk to the musicians, talk to your agents. What can you do to get better? How do you get people into the music scene? How do you get them out of that mindset of listening to the same shit over and over and over? You do that by brainstorming. Got to sit down and brainstorm ideas. You know this.
That's right. Yeah, and the people you're around, of course, what they're listening to.
And don't be afraid to try shit. Don't be that typical bar doing the same shit. Try new things.
That's right. And this applies to you listening. Don't be a Debbie Downer. You know? Get up and do something with your life. You know, quit your job and go play music. Who cares if it's COVID?
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to talk too much about COVID, John, but I do want to say one thing that's pretty cool that came from it. When COVID hit, I had just decided I was going to be a part-time musician. I had just gone part-time.
Oh, and that was your welcome?
Yeah, it was the next month. I had just done it. And there's so many things.
I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to play music full-time.
You know what? I'm pressing the button again. It's okay. It never gets old. I'm going to add a delay to it and dub it out. It's going to be
2 days later, this is so exciting. I'm finally going to do it. 2 days later, the world shuts down.
Well, and what happened to me was I said, okay, so just going through my head is sink or swim. I literally am thinking, I know how to record music. I've been doing so much recording. I play every instrument, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to brag, but I play every instrument. So I can do all the parts.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, let's just put an ad out on my story on Instagram. And you know what? let's just see if anybody takes the bait. I said $50. Send me your lyrics or whatever your idea is. I'll turn it into a complete song and send it back to you. So here's what happened. I did a couple songs. I'm thinking, holy cow, this works. I'll raise the price because, $50 is only enough for me to get a couple packs of ramen and, one pizza that I order. And I'm thinking, because pizzas are freaking $30. Anyway, it's a different podcast. So anyway, my friend DJ Shepard, which I saw sitting at my buddy's bar, Miss Hyde Bar with Zach Turner, was a great bar.
Miss Hyde.
I loved that place.
Yeah.
And
likewise.
there was this guy sitting there, DJ Shepard. He's sitting there when I'm playing one of my solo gigs that you booked for me. Thank you, by the way.
You're
loved
welcome.
playing there. And he's sitting there writing notes while I'm playing. And I'm thinking, what's he doing? Okay, so this is before COVID. Okay, I'll get to the COVID part. But he's writing notes. During the break, I like to go talk to people, see how they like the sound, they like the songs, and just say hi. And I try to be a little more personable instead of just going to my car and listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony and smoking J's. And, sometimes I like to actually go out.
It's the first of the month, get up.
It is. Oh, rent's almost due. Hang on a second. Okay, yeah. Just start stressing about that. Anyway, so yeah, DJ, he's over here. He's all, who's that girl at the sold out show? What's he doing over there with him? And he's like just singing these lyrics that he's coming up with. And I'm like, I go, are you just writing this? He's like, yeah. I'm like talking to the people. I go, look, this guy right here is writing lyrics. I go, watch this. Send me your lyrics, DJ. Send me your lyrics and I'll turn it into a hit for you. How's that?
Let's hear it.
Here it is, buddy.
Love is what you're looking for. Girl, you're gonna get it. If love is what you're looking for, girl, you're gonna get it. Love is what you're looking for. If I give you my heart, I sure hope I don't regret it. I've heard it before, lost up in the game. I won't play with your heart. Please don't put me to shame. If love is what you're looking for, girl, you're gonna get it. Back up and back down, don't even sweat it. If you want what I'm giving, girl, come and get it. If love is what you're looking for, girl, you're gonna get it. If love is what you're looking for, girl, you're gonna get it. Love is what you're looking for. If I give you my heart, I sure hope I don't regret it. Love is what you're looking for. I was really with it. I need you in my arms if you want what I'm giving. If I give you my heart, I sure hope I don't regret it. If I give you my heart, I sure hope I don't regret it.
I love it.
Well, John, I just wanted to say thanks so much for coming here and talking with me. This has been really great.
My pleasure.
Peace out, y'all. Be good.
Be good.
Check out whiteeyelash.com.